All right, hi guys. This is the walkthrough for the second worksheet for this week, the arc length and sector area worksheet number 2. All right, so these ones, again, you're using the arc length and sector area formulas for all of them, but you're solving for different things depending on the problem. So number one, we want to find the length of arc AB. So again, you're just going to use the arc length formula. So arc length here is equal to x over 360, right? The measure of the central angle divided by 360 times the circumference, which is 2 pi r, right? So we don't want the distance around the whole thing. That's 2 pi r, right? 2 pi r is the distance around the whole thing. We only want a part of it, right? Just this part. So this is exactly like the first worksheet that you did. You're just going to put in 120 for x and 6 for r, and then you're going to find the length of the arc. Okay. The second one here, it says the diameter is 24, and then again, we want to find the length of the arc. So we're looking for the length of CD. So again, you're going to use this formula. You're given a diameter of 24, right? Okay, but our formula calls for radius, so you're going to have to divide by 2, and so that's going to be a radius of 12, right? So let's go ahead and well, yeah, no, that's all right. We don't need it. We would plug in 12 for the radius, and then you'd substitute in 60 for your arc measure, right? So you're only looking for 1/6 of it, right? 60 divided by 360 is 1/6. Circumference is the distance around the whole thing. So 2 times pi times 12, that's 24 pi is your circumference, and then you only want 1/6 of it, so you'd take 1/6 of 24 pi, which would end up being 4 pi. Okay. And then your units there, centimeters and centimeters. Okay, 3 and 4. The length of arc EF is 5 pi. Find the length of the radius. So here is where we start getting a little bit different than the first worksheet. So we're still using the arc length formula. So we still have arc length equals the central measure of the central angle divided by 360 times 2 pi r, right, times your circumference. Okay, but they're giving us the arc length. They tell us the arc length is 5 pi inches. Okay, we also know that the central angle is 30 degrees, so the measure of arc EF is 30 degrees. So it's going to be 30 divided by 360. Okay, and then times our circumference, which is 2 pi r. Right, and then we just have to solve for r. So 5 pi, right? So we can do 5 times pi for the left side, and that's going to give us 15.71. So 15.71. On this side, we're going to do 330 divided by 360, and then we can multiply by 2 pi to simplify it. So 30 divided by 360 times 2 times pi. All right, it's going to be 0.52, 0.52. And then we still have our radius, right? So all we did here is simplified it. 5 times pi was 15.71. 30 divided by 360 is 1/12 times 2 pi got us 0.52, and then we can divide both sides by 0.52. So we get a radius equals 15.71 divided by 0.52, which is going to be 30.2, and our units is inches. So 30.2, so it's going to be 30.2 inches. Okay, if we wanted to check our answer, right, we could do 2 pi, that 30 divided by 360, right, that's the part of the circle. Okay, and then times 2 times pi, and then times our radius. We got 30.2 for our radius. And what did we do wrong? Oh, it's should be 5. pi, yep, which is 15.7. Yep, so we're good. Right, and 5 pi, that should equal 15.71, so we're good. Right, find the length of arc x, y. So this is just like number 1 and 2. You're going to substitute in your radius and your central angle to find the length of that arc. Okay. Here they give us the length of the arc and the arc measure. So we have the length of the arc and the arc measure. So again, we can work backwards to find this one. Right, so arc length at x over 360, right, times the circumference, 2 pi r. Right, so you would have your arc length, right, 88.88 pi. You have your central angle, which is 80. And then you need to find your radius. So you would solve for radius. And then when you find your radius, right, you would multiply by 2 to get your diameter. Okay. 6, a circle has a circumference whose length is 25 pi. Find the length of an arc whose central angle is 90 degrees. So again, arc length. So we're doing the arc length formula. So x over 360 times 2 pi r, which is the circumference, right? So they're giving us circumference. So 25 pi equals 2 pi r. Okay, you can either solve for the radius and substitute it in, or we know that 25 pi equals 2 pi r, so you can substitute this whole thing in for your circumference. Right, so we would have arc length equals, we're dealing with a central angle of 90 degrees, so 90 over 360, and then times 25 pi, right? Because that's the circumference. 2 pi r is equal to 25 pi. Circumference is 2 pi r, so 25 pi. Okay. And then you can solve for your arc length from there. All right, 7, find the measure of a central angle if its arc length is 14 pi and its radius is 18. So again, you're using your arc length formula. You're going to substitute in 14 pi for arc length and then 18 for the radius, and then you can solve for x, which would be your central angle. Okay. 8, calculate the sector area. So again, these should go pretty quick because you have the radius, you have the central angle. But for sector area, if you watch the notes, right, we're doing the portion of the circle, so x over 360, right, and then times our area, which is pi r squared. So in the first one here, right, we would have 90 over 360. Right, we're not finding the area of the whole circle, we're finding the area of just the 90-degree part. So that's 1/4 of it. Right, and then we need to multiply that by the whole area, which is pi r squared. So pi times 16 squared. Right, so this is 1/4. Right, this is 256 pi. Right, so your area is 256 pi, but we don't want the area of the whole circle. We just want the 1/4 of it. So 256 pi divided by 4, basically 256 divided by 4 is 64 pi. Right, or you could put 201.1. Okay, but I like 64 pi. And then the units there are inches squared. Right, but remember, we could also do the decimal, which is 201.1. And again, since it's area and it's two-dimensional, you're dealing with inches squared. Okay, and then B and C would be the same thing, except you're using a radius of 8 and a central angle of 135. All right, you want the area of just part of the circle, not the whole thing. Okay, and then we got a few more here. So the area of the circle is 225 pi square inches, which is the same as inches squared. And we want to find the area of the sector whose central angle is 45. So sector area equals, again, the part of the circle, times then the area, which is pi r squared. Again, we can just put a if you want, right? But it's pi r squared is formally what we have because pi r squared is the area, right? We know area is pi r squared. So they give us the area, 225 pi, right? So instead of writing pi r squared here, we could put in 225 pi, right? Because we know that that is the area. Okay, right? 225 pi equals pi r squared. It's just the area. Again, if it makes it more sense for you to write a there instead of pi r squared, that's fine. Pi r squared is the area. All right, and then our central angle is 45, so we're doing 45 out of 360. Right, and there's our formula then to find the sector area that we're looking for. Right, and again, your units would be inches squared. All right, 10, the central angle is 60. And the area of the circle is 144 pi. What's the area of the sector? So same thing. There's no difference there. That problem is just like number 9. Okay. A circle has a radius of 12. Find the area of the sector whose central angle is 120 degrees. So that's just like number 8. All right. So you have sector area. You have 60 out of 360. I'm sorry, this is number 10. Right? And then your area is 144 pi. Right? Here you would have, right, your central angle is 120. So again, 120 out of 360. And then your radius, so pi times 12 squared, right? That'll be your sector area. Right, 12, 13, 14 then, radius. Okay, you're searching for the radius here. So again, it's the same formula every time. Part of the circle times the area. What part of the circle you're looking for times the area, which is pi r squared. Okay, so you have sector area they give you is 9 pi. And they give you a central angle of 90. So 90 divided by 360 is going to be 1/4 times pi r squared. Right, and you just got to get r by itself. Let's actually try this one. So if you divide by pi on both sides, those pi's cancel out. Okay, and then you got to multiply by 360 on both sides. Right, so you multiply by 360 on both sides. So 360 times 9, right? And then you'd have to divide by 90 on both sides. So you basically would have 360 times 9 divided by 90. Right, so 360 times 9 divided by 90 is 36 on the left side, and then you have r squared on the right side. Right, and then to get rid of the square, you got to take the square root of both sides, so you get plus or minus 6. Right, but it's a distance, radius is distance, so it has to be positive, so 6. They don't give us units, do they? Yeah, they don't give us units, so it's just going to be radius equals 6. Okay. Then 13, they give us a central angle, and they give us an area, and they want us to find the radius. Or they give us the sector area, want us to find the radius, so that's, again, just going to be like 12. And then the last one, you're finding the central angle, so you're finding x, right? So you have sector area is 5 pi, and then x over 360, and then times your area, so pi times 6 squared, right? And then you're looking for the measure of the central angle. So you got to divide by everything that you're multiplying by, and then multiply by everything that you're dividing by, right? If this one up here was confusing, let me go back and look at it again in maybe an easier way. Delete all this stuff though. Okay, you can multiply everything out on one side. So on one side there's 9 pi, so 9 times pi. is 28.3. Right, so this side's 28.3. On this side, you do 90 divided by 360 times pi. So 90 divided by 360 is 1/4 times pi. Right, it's going to be 0.7. So let's do 0.8. So 0.8 times r squared, right? And then divide by 0.8 on both sides. So 28.3 divided by 0.8 divided by answer. And you get 36, or about 36. 36.0 equals r squared, right? And then you get 6 equals r. Okay. So that's the second worksheet. And then you guys have one Khan Academy and one iLearn assignment that are each 4 questions. So hopefully it's not too much. Should be a good amount for this week. Let me know if you have any further questions.